All right, phone addiction is absolutely out of control. And not only is it destroying our spiritual lives, but it's also greatly negatively impacting our mental health as well. I've talked many times about how in the modern world, compared to every other time in history, we have so many things aimed against us now that are designed or, just a side effect of them, are keeping us to where we do not have good spiritual health at all. And now it's also affecting our mental health as well. And, one of the greatest problems that's causing that is phone addiction. And this is something you see rampant absolutely everywhere. I'll be in the gym and I'll see, people do a set and immediately they'll pull out their phone after the set and start scrolling social media. I'll be out to dinner and now couples on date nights, you'll see both of them on their date just scrolling their phone. It seems like everywhere you go, everybody is just glued to their phone, whether they're, checking, social media and just doom scrolling, whether they're checking, how many likes they get, they're checking analytics for business purposes, text messages, whatever. We're all glued. This is something that, many times in the past, I have seen this within myself. I'll be working and then, I'll have a little bit of dead space or a little break or something like that. And my, kind of almost subconscious reaction is just to pick up my phone and either check, analytics, check messages from people, or frankly, even just, in the past, doom scroll social media. This is something that is greatly taking away from our spiritual health. But now they're even showing with studies that we are greatly affecting our mental health, and it's frankly making us dumber as well. So they're now seeing with studies that deep phone addiction is actually causing a 30 to 40% decrease over time in brain gray matter. So brain gray matter is what helps, cognitive function. It helps emotional stability. And they're now seeing that over time with phone addiction, you're actually decreasing your brain gray matter. So we are literally making ourselves dumber, not just dumber because, we're spending all the time on social media and all that, but it's actually physically decreasing our brain's function as well. With that too, also, so much of phone addiction a lot of times is connected to social media. So, on a spiritual side, it's also causing everybody to feel inadequate. You're seeing all these pictures of what success looks like, needing to have this much money or have these nice cars, nice houses. You need to have this perfect physique. Everyone's kind of comparing, whether consciously or subconsciously, comparing themselves to the artificial pictures of success that everybody's putting out on social media. And, all of this is very easy to see why. It's all been designed this way. All social media companies, the phone companies, the way they've done this is they have designed everything to be cheap dopamine hits. So that's why everyone's hooked to this is, every time they go on social media and they have their algorithm tailored to, what they want to see, or the way in which you get notifications, the way in which you see how many people like your posts, or the way in which you get a chime when you get a text message. All of these are designed to give you cheap little dopamine hits that keeps you absolutely hooked to the phone. This is where now it's gotten popular that people are doing phone detoxes, or they're doing, social media detoxes to completely pull themselves away from this. Dopamine detox is now something that has gotten really popular as of late, and it's because everyone's so addicted to these cheap little dopamine hits that before modern history, our ancestors did not have to deal with this stuff. Dopamine obviously has been a part of human function forever, but we are now having dopamine hits thrown in our face everywhere we go with every little thing. And it's just keeping us absolutely hooked to things we shouldn't be focusing on. We're spending too much time in the wrong stuff. Good example, I've got a client of mine, a fitness client of mine. He's been one of my clients for years. He himself has a very successful business. He has over 2 million subscribers on YouTube. And he's got a pretty good handle on his spiritual life. He's in the spirituality space on YouTube. And he's really big into, inner peace and all of this. And a few weeks ago, we have spent the last couple of years dialing in his entire lifestyle, from, his fitness routine, his diet, getting his natural hormone function, at absolute peak. So that includes his testosterone. And this guy lives a healthy lifestyle to an absolute T, getting daily sunshine, making sure he's doing stuff for his cognitive ability. I mean, literally living everything to a T. And about a month ago, he decided to do a complete phone detox. So besides what he had to do for his business, he's a content creator, he had essentially his editors and his assistants take care of everything. He just filmed the content. And then, besides legitimate business purposes, he completely removed his phone from his day-to-day structure. During this time, we saw a complete increase in testosterone. He saw an immediately increase in his sleep quality, and just overall happiness and peace he felt. And now it's been something that now he's implementing much more into his life. He's now staying off his phone much more. It caused me to also, really do an audit of my own life and, my own phone use. So now what I do, if I'm working, I don't have my phone next to me. It'll be across the room to where I'm not just, in between different tasks, picking up my phone and doom scrolling or checking analytics or whatever like that. It's now allowed me to be even more productive. But what this can do also for our spiritual life is, this is now space that, like I said, our ancestors didn't have to deal with this. This is time that we have now filled that our ancestors could have been spending time in prayer. This could be time spent to where you're reading a book. This is one of the recommendations I have. So if you are trying to remove this from your life, or you're trying to pull back on your phone addiction, everybody's got some level of this. Some steps to this is, one, do what I did. Have your phone across the room as best you can. If you are working, have it across the room. Don't just be mindlessly checking it. This will increase your productivity right off the bat. B, those times when you just subconsciously pick up your phone. You don't even have a reason for getting on it. And you just, want to just doom scroll, or you just, will literally pick it up, and before you know it, you are doom scrolling. It's not something you're intentionally doing. Try to catch yourself before you do that, and now fill it with something productive. So this could be, you having a book that's sitting next to you, and instead of picking up the phone, you pick up the book and read a few pages of the book. I would recommend, for your spirituality, take this time to prayer, take it to God. This is now to where you can now have that space that was a negative for your life, when you were just doom scrolling or just mindlessly on your phone. Instead of, just filling it with kind of a neutral task, now fill it with something positive like prayer. And you can actually be getting, going deeper within your spiritual life. If you do that, spend this time to where you are giving that back to God. This is like what I said, our ancestors didn't have to deal with this. We have greater threats now in the modern world to our spiritual life and our mental health than any other time in history for humanity. It's something that we need to be cognizant of and fight against. So this is where I would recommend taking it to prayer. On a more extreme side, and I do recommend this for many people. If you have, and I've talked about this in the past, if you're dealing with lust, that's one thing, but if you have an addiction to say doom scrolling Instagram, maybe for a period of time, kind of like doing a detox from it, remove Instagram from your phone. It won't be an option for you to sit there and doom scroll. And I'm telling you guys, if you can start limiting how much you are on that and you are doom scrolling, or you're checking analytics just mindlessly, you're not doing actual legitimate productive functions on your phone, which frankly shouldn't take up much time anyway. This is where you need to take drastic actions to start removing this from your life. It's something that I've been cognizantly trying to do and intentionally trying to do over the last probably 6 months to a year, but especially over the last couple of months. And it's already making a very, very drastic improvement in my life. And I'm telling you, if you just take more of this time to prayer, and now you have this time where you're sitting with God, and you're giving that time back to God, your spiritual life is going to flourish from this. You're going to see greater depth come out of that as well. So I hope this video was some encouragement to y'all. The main point here is that, phone addictions is a huge deterrent to our spiritual and mental health right now. And that's what we need more than ever. The modern world right now is absolutely crazy and out of hand. And so many people feel lost and just completely unhappy in their lives. And a big part of that is because they're not they're not putting seeds into their spiritual life and growing their spiritual life and doing things that'll lead to greater spiritual health, which will lead to greater mental health and all that. So hope this is some encouragement to y'all. If you can, please go ahead and smash the like button, hit subscribe if you haven't already. All glory to God. God bless y'all. Have a great rest of your day.